Democrats' defund the police push is backfiring on them as violence in blue cities continues to absolutely soar. Joining me now to discuss is Mercedes Schlapp, former White House Strategic Communication Director, and Miranda Devine, New York Post columnist, a Fox News contributor, and the author of the greatest book, Laptop from Hell. Ladies, welcome to the program. Okay, Miranda, I want to start with you. By the way, I do love the book. I want to ask you a question about that a little bit later.
Thank you, Sean.
So here we have in Atlanta. Just this year alone, homicides are up by 43%. Rapes are up by like 240%. And so I wonder, where are the Democrat women who should say, listen, these policies are hurting other women, these policies are hurting minorities, and we got to change course to make sure our communities are safe?
Look, Sean, the problem is that once the genie of crime is out of the bottle, it's really hard to put it back. And I just don't think that Democrats are willing to do the really tough measures that are needed, that, for instance, Rudy Giuliani put into place when he saved New York. And it now gets no thanks for it all. They became complacent, and we had people like Bill de Blasio boasting about having the safest big city. They inherited safe cities, and they've managed in very short order to just destroy law and order there. And I think it will take a hell of a lot more pain before voters, Democratic voters, are willing to vote in somebody who's willing to do the tough yards.
And Mercedes, to that point, when you talk about pain, does that pain come politically? Do Democrats have to lose a ton of seats in the House and maybe lose control of the Senate for them to get the idea that Americans actually like law and order? They like to be in their homes and on their streets and be safe,
right,
as opposed to these policies that say we should defund the police.
Well, Sean, while we can predict that a red wave is coming in November, and it will obviously seem that the Republicans, looking at even the generic ballots, it looks that they're up about 13 to 14% Republicans over Democrats in these congressional races. The reality is that Republicans really need to make inroads in these local elections. The local elections matter: who your mayor is, who your school board member is, who your city council is. And that's where the Republicans really have lost a lot of ground. And so that's why you're seeing, you know, the fact that in cities like Minneapolis and cities like Atlanta, New York City, with these Democrats in power, they've been ingrained there for decades, that their policies have been harmful to the minority communities that they serve and to the suburban areas as well. And so that's an area where I think Republicans need to invest more money and figure out a way where they can break this cycle of continuing to elect Democrats. And what you are seeing, Sean, is a trend where more independents are shifting towards the right. They're becoming Republicans, or they're definitely looking to vote Republicans because they feel that the Democrats pushing this radicalized message of defunding the police, of basically creating where these police officers feel demonized and demoralized, and these people don't feel safe. That's where the Republicans can gain ground and see if we can start winning back these cities.
Well, it's a good point, because Republicans seem to focus on governor's races, Senate races, House races, and they forget about these local races that have a huge impact on your life. But I mean, Miranda, we saw in San Francisco not long ago that 3 liberal board members on the school board lost their seats in a recall, which goes to tell you that, you know, oftentimes politics really is local. And if you're going to go after my kids, if you don't have policies that are just common sense, that focus on education, we're going to throw even liberals out. And that's what happened in San Francisco, right? And maybe that's a message for other Democrats to go, if you don't get your act together and focus on me and what I care about, you're not going to have a job.
Yes, and you're seeing that the Democratic National Committee has been trying to give that advice to its members who are in particularly difficult seats to win for 2022 in November. And they're saying to them, well, you need to push back against the Republican misinformation about, say, defunding the police or opening the border. You have to say, no, that's not true. I mean, that's their advice. It's not to change their disastrous policies. It is to lie about them. And unfortunately, because they have a compliant media just basically parroting Democratic talking points, they'll probably get away with it in large part. It's certainly among Democratic voters.
So, that's a really good point, because the message there when the polling comes out is we have to change our policies. America doesn't like this. Your point is right. They're saying, let's just say we're not doing it. Let's lie to the American people, and we might be able to keep some seats, which is insanity. And so, Mercedes, I look at the polling, and in the generic ballot, which just poll people and say, do you want a Republican or a Democrat? Republicans are up by 4 points. Now, traditionally, when Republicans are down by 4 points to Democrats, it's an even heat, right? Just by the way the voter turnout works. Joe Biden is at 40%. So the idea that a red wave is not coming is very unlikely, right?
Well, Sean, look, I think that we have to be realistic. There's still a lot of time between now and November. And one of the things that the Democrats know how to do is create chaos. We saw this with the Black Lives Matter riots in the 2020 election this summer of Antifa and Black Lives Matter basically burning down these cities. So, look, these guys know what it takes. As Rahm Emanuel says, they know clearly how to take advantage of these chaotic moments in their favor. So don't count them out. Don't rule them out. But the reality is that we're looking right into the face of an international crisis with Russia and Ukraine and this what looks to be a potential violent war. What is that going to mean? How is Joe Biden going to respond and be the tough guy during this most difficult time and probably the most difficult challenge that President Biden's going to face? On top of that, with the Democrats pushing CRT, pushing vaccine mandates, pushing all these unpopular policies, that hurts the Democrats. And I think that it's really going to hurt come November. But again, I just still think it's too early to just rule it out and say it's going to be a big red wave. We hope it will be. It's the best thing for this country. But the reality stands, Sean, is that it's still we're just starting March,
Mercedes,
so it's going to be challenging.
There's a lot of time left, but when you don't change your policies and get them in line with the American people, I think it's going to continue, and I think a red wave is on the horizon. But ladies, thanks for the discussion and thanks for joining me.
Thank you so much.